In this video, we're going to edit this picture. What you need to know about it is that I was there at a really bad time. It's in Morocco, and the place is called Ben-Haddou. This is a very famous place, so much so that movies are regularly filmed here, and Christopher Nolan had actually booked the place before me, so it was closed off for quite a while. Unfortunately, during the few days I was in the area, I couldn't see it from the inside, so we just passed by. I took a vacation photo with my phone, and then we left. However, this vacation photo originally looks like this. So this is a photo taken with a phone, a RAW file. So the reason we can recover the colors so nicely is because it's a RAW file containing all the data we need. But if you look at it, I took this photo straight on, and there are some really ugly parts at the bottom. And unfortunately, the sky at the top also looks as if it's blown out because it was very windy and the wind picked up the dust. So that's why the sky looked like this. And I took the photo straight on because I knew I would have to replace the sky anyway, and I also saw that the bottom part was really ugly, but I still took it from the front, and I recommend you do the same so that the vertical lines don't get distorted. So you've probably already noticed that if you tilt the camera up or down, the vertical lines will lean in or out so they won't be straight. And since I knew I would have to crop the sky at the top anyway or replace it, and I could crop the image at the bottom as well, I didn't worry about making the composition perfect. Instead, I shot the photo straight on to preserve my vertical lines. Even though I think there isn't a single vertical line on these buildings. Okay, so one more thing. We're going to replace the sky, and for that you'll need your own photo. I used one of my old photos for this, which was taken at a similar time, and I think it fits this location. So that's about it. I won't take up any more time. Let's edit the photo.
Did you know you can download the raw files to practice? Go to shutterseek.co.uk, create a free account, log in, and find the video you're currently watching in the Edit Like a Pro course. Download the raw files and edit this picture with me. This way you'll improve much faster. Also, hit subscribe to join the channel. My mission here is to give you professional level training that you usually have to pay for.
Here's the image we'll be working with. You can download it too and just drag it into Photoshop so we can edit it. I'll reset it to its original state, and this is what came straight out of the camera, which in this case is an iPhone 16 Pro, and you can see its settings up here. It's not really worth going over the settings. The photo was taken in the middle of the day, we had plenty of light, and since it was taken with a phone, the picture was basically shot with factory default settings. You can immediately see that there are quite a few problems with this picture. The colors are really strange. Everything looks yellow. The bottom part of the photo is very uninteresting, and the sky looks like it's completely blown out. So unfortunately, I couldn't get into these buildings because Christopher Nolan was shooting a film here, and the area was closed off for days, if not weeks. I spent 2 days nearby, and unfortunately both days it was closed. So I had professional equipment with me, but since I couldn't get in anyway, I didn't use it during the day. Just snapped a few shots with my phone, and this is one of the pictures I took. However, this is a RAW file, so it contains all the raw data, and we'll be able to edit it very nicely. So let's try to save this picture as much as we can. I know it's a vacation photo, not that interesting, but we can still make something interesting out of it because I think the location itself is very unique and beautiful. So let's get started. Here you can see the profile, Apple Pro RAW. When you see a photo taken with an Apple phone, by default, it will be on this profile, and usually this one tends to look the best out of all of them. Since we're going to edit it from scratch anyway, I'll set it to lens profile because I usually prefer that. And then I usually hit auto here, and when I open this up, I set the blacks back to 0 and the colors as well, so saturation and vibrance both to 0. So this is our starting point. As you can see, the image is a bit too bright. The pixels are even getting blown out here, so I'll darken it just a little, something like this. So you can see that the whole image is very yellow. The phone usually does a pretty good job setting the white balance, but since we shot in RAW, we don't have to worry about it, because we can adjust it ourselves later on, and we can do so without any penalty. The other reason it didn't manage to set it properly is because the air was full of sand. We had windy days, and we're next to the desert, so the air was full of dust, and it was probably humid too, maybe because of the weather, so our sky didn't look good. This didn't really help the phone set the white balance correctly, so let's try to do it ourselves now. So let's go here to color. Here we have this eyedropper tool, and with this, if we could find something that should be white or gray, that would help a lot. And here we have a beautiful bush with these prominent branches which are quite strikingly white. So I'll carefully select something here that's very, very light, then precisely click on it. To me, it's a bit cool. We're in the desert, so I'll bring it up to around 4800. And it's also a little greenish, so maybe I'll add a touch of magenta, let's say up to +4 here. I'm just setting this by feel. We might come back to it later. Okay, let's move on. Next, details. Here you can see that sharpening is set to 50. For me, that's almost always too much. I'll pull it back to 40 and I'll move the mask to the right while holding down Option or Alt. And set it to around 70. It should only be bright where we want to sharpen. Maybe that's still a bit much, maybe 80. Let's move on optics. So here, chromatic aberration is what usually appears in areas with strong contrast. I'll try to find an example, say here in this part, and if I turn it on, you can see what it looks like now, and when I turn it off, you can see what it looks like then. And interestingly, it's as if it's reversed now. So actually, this is more what it usually looks like when there's chromatic aberration, and this is how it looks when I turn it off. So this is a bit strange right now. In any case, it looks better, so it's turned on, so we'll keep it that way. Here's an option called Use Profile Correction. I check this, and if you look, our building in the center gets a little bit bigger. This happens because it corrects the distortions caused by the lens, and with many lenses at least, vignetting often occurs, meaning the corners get darker, and this usually fixes that as well. And the first part where we really start to adjust the saturation is here. So the very bottom slider in calibration, if I drag this to the right, you'll see that at around a value of 50, really nice colors come back into our image. It looks much better. So I think we're pretty much good like this. This slider does have an unfortunate side effect, which is that it oversaturates the blues. There aren't really many blues here, or only in the shadowy areas, like where this man is sitting up here. Just to be safe, let's go up here and select Color Mixer, the Saturation tab, and it's worth pulling back the blue saturation here to make sure the blue doesn't become too strong anywhere. And that's about it. We're done with the basics. I'll go ahead and click Open. Let's start by cropping out the unnecessary parts, so I'll cut off this really ugly section at the bottom. Something like this, so that the buildings emerge from this nice new vegetation. It looks much better here. Then hit Enter. And up top we have the sky, which we still want to replace. It's actually worth choosing some standard aspect ratio, like 16.9. And let's carefully crop our scene to a specific 16.9 aspect ratio, for example. I usually find myself going with the 16.10 aspect ratio, actually. I genuinely much prefer the 16:10 aspect ratio for its visual balance and how it frames content, so I will certainly stick with that particular aspect ratio now as well. Therefore, let's proceed to make sure it is precisely set to 16:10 for this project. This way the cropping works out pretty well, so if you look closely, I'm setting this top horizontal line, which is actually precisely set to the golden ratio, so that it's roughly at the very top of the buildings. And the truth is, maybe the 16:9 ratio will actually look a little better here. Otherwise, there's just too much sky, so I'll move it down. Let the intersection point be here instead. This way it looks much better, in my opinion. So let's hit Enter. So the next step is that we should replace the sky. So I have a photo prepared here, but I'm not going to give it to you now. Find your own one with a similar sky. Since this was taken roughly around midday, or at least not near sunset or sunrise, it's worth choosing one that was also shot in similar lighting conditions. So if you were to use a sunset photo here, it might not look as good as if you used one that was actually taken at a similar time of day. So here, I click on Copy Image, and then I paste it here with Command V. With Command T, these controls appear, and I stretch it out just enough to fill the space. And now let's swap their places. So what I want is for the sky, this grayness, to disappear, and for the sky behind it to show up instead. Nothing could be simpler than this. I click here. There are two ways to do this. There's a very simple one, and there's another that's a bit more fiddly, but more precise. I'll show you the simple one. Select Sky. So now we have a selection of the sky here, and we want it to disappear. So I move it here, and if I were to create a mask now, the sky would remain and everything else would disappear. So we need to press Option or Alt on Windows, and then we'll get an inverted mask here, and our sky disappears, revealing the sky behind it. And it did a pretty good job. I'm basically satisfied with it, but as I promised, I'll show you how to do this in a bit more of a fiddly manual way, but more precisely. So I'll erase it, and here we have something called the quick selection tool, and I'll select the sky. You can see that the selection went too far here, so by holding down Option or Alt, I remove these parts so they won't be selected. There are a few more here as well. Okay, here it also went a bit too far, so I'll remove it here as well. And let's say here too, that's about it. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. So we're done. Up here, click on Select a Mask, and if yours isn't red, you can choose red here. I think that looks the best. And select the second tool from the top. Here you can adjust the brush size, and the brush doesn't need to be very big because we want precise selections. So on the areas where the selection isn't good, just go over them with this brush, just roughly along the edges. And if you look, it does a really good job here as well. And this is how you can make these very precise selections properly. The selection will be much more accurate than if we had just clicked to select the sky. Here too, if you look at the person, between their leg and hand, the sky is there as well. That's also selected. It just goes over it. And if you look, now the selection looks perfect. And here as well, we just run along all the branches like this. Good. Here maybe we don't need it a little bit. That's all there is to it. I click on OK, and just like before, I hold down Option, click here, and it's gone. And we've inserted our sky behind it. There's a little problem with the sky. So if you look, the shadows on the buildings are on the left side, and here the light is also coming a bit from the left. So let's just say the light is coming more from the left than from the right. So it's worth flipping it. Select this particular tool, then proceed to press the Ctrl-T keyboard shortcut. Following that, I will right-click with my mouse, and from the contextual menu that appears, I will choose the Flip Horizontal option. And with that, we have now flipped it to the other side. We're pretty much done with the initial adjustments, I think. I'll now carefully check the selections here, because on the man, it looks like the selection is not perfectly refined around his face. So, to address this, I'll go to the Mask panel, then select the Brush tool, ensuring it's set to a black color. I'll also choose a very, very small brush size. With this precise tool, I'll work on the areas where his face should be perfectly defined. Sorry, I misspoke. I meant to use a white brush. And with this white brush, I'll fix these specific parts here, ensuring a clean and accurate mask. No, it's not like there's a huge difference. I think because of the shoot, he's wearing something that was needed for the film, and I assume this is going to be a historical movie. So, our two images are now aligned. Now I'll select both of them, drag them down here to make a copy, right-click, merge layers, and I'll name this Camera Raw Filter, and now we're going to edit this. Filter, Camera Raw Filter. Aha, and if you look now, the bottom of the image is still there, so I forgot to show you this. Here we have a crop tool, and there's this Delete Cropped Pixels option. Turn this on, and after I click here, I press Enter, and now if you look, the bottom of the image is gone. So it's a good idea to turn this off afterwards, so that in the future it doesn't crop everything immediately, and only crops when you actually want it to. So once again, Filter, Camera Raw Filter, and if you look, now our image looks good. So the first and most important thing is that we need to bring back the contrast in this image. So curves, and if these are turned on up here, then when you move in here, it will highlight in blue if something is too dark. If you move in here, it will highlight in red if something is too bright. So here, we need to move in until these blues appear, but I don't want it to be completely black. So I stop just before they show up. Something like this. If you look at the histogram here, you can see that there's a large empty space. The full tonal range isn't being used, but if I start pulling this in, our pixels start moving in that direction. And we're pretty much good here. So this is already a huge improvement. Our contrast is pretty much good. It could still be a bit more contrasty though, so I'll pull down the lower part and lift up the midtones. But just very, very carefully. Here we'll have an S-curve, and this gives us some extra contrast in the image. Okay, this looks good like this. Our sky could perhaps be a little more saturated, so I'll carefully select the sky and maybe shift its hue a bit towards a deeper blue. Just a tiny bit, let's say around -4 or 5. And then I'll slightly but noticeably increase the saturation, perhaps by +10, so that our sky truly looks a bit more vibrant and lively. Okay. Let's see what else we can do. I would darken this lower part a bit, and I would especially darken this bush because it really draws our attention away. So I want to direct the focus inward here. So first I use a radial gradient, select this crown of leaves here, and lower the exposure, let's say by minus 0.75. Then I create a new one, a linear gradient, and now I just pull one in from below, darkening the whole bottom part, which also draws our attention inward toward the center of the image. Actually, we're doing pretty well so far. I personally really like the image this way. And honestly, I really would not do much else here at all. I am quite afraid that if I started meticulously tweaking it too much or diligently working on it any more than this, I would just inevitably end up making it look completely unnatural. Now, I will just simply click OK here. And maybe I do one last thing. I'll duplicate this. Sharpening. And then I'll go up here to Filter, Other High Pass. This should always be set to 1 here. And here, set it to Overlay. This way, the grayness disappears, but the sharpening remains. If we zoom in here, you can see there's a before and there's an after. So it really sharpened it a lot. And if you ask me, well, we're at 300% now. Let's set it to around 100%. Let's take a look. So here's a before and here's an after. The image turned out really sharp, maybe even a bit too much for my taste. Let's try it at around 75. All right, I think a value of 75 is more than enough. So let's see where we started and where we've ended up. Here's our original image. I'll reset it and hit enter. So let's go through it. So here's our original image. We edited this and it looks something like this, but if I turn off the sky, you can see that the sky is kind of gray. So we masked out the sky and put a nicer sky behind it. We edited the whole thing in Camera Raw. It just took a few moves and then we sharpened it a bit. So that's how this image became this one. And this became this. One last thing. When you save an image, it's very important that it's internet compatible. Otherwise, the colors will be completely distorted. You go up here to File. There's an option called Export. And here, what you really need to pay attention to is this. Both Convert to sRGB and Embed Color Profile should be enabled. I always make sure to keep my copyright information as well. Here you can easily set the desired resolution, then simply click the Export button and finally save it wherever you prefer. So I hope you liked this video and found it useful. Unfortunately, there are times when we're at a location at the wrong moment. The weather conditions aren't favorable or the lighting isn't ideal. But as you can see, with a bit of creativity and some time and effort, these photos can be salvaged and you can create a really nice picture out of them. So I hope to see you in the next videos, and until then, I wish you lots of sunshine and beautiful light.